I had found them at the entrance. Motoyama, just as I was approaching them. Oh, hey, it's my boy.
Commander, I apologize for interrupting, but I have news for you regarding the Mima Warigumi.
Yamazaki, who had come running from the opposite side of me, was speaking nervously.
We were just discussing this. Fill us in.
Yamazaki seemed unsure whether or not it was appropriate to reveal his information in front of Iba or me, as he nervously glanced towards us. But he'd made up his mind and spoke up.
Over the past few days, the Mima Warigumi have been behaving conspicuously. We have reports of them recruiting high-level warriors, and it looks as though they are preparing for a major conflict.
Major conflict, huh? What do you think it's about, Yamazaki?
Yamazaki was about to answer, then he stopped himself. He paused to think, then he finally spoke. This music.
I am under the impression that it is an assassination attempt, and the target is a high-profile one, if I'm not mistaken.
Could it be?
As Iba began to realize the implications, Hijikata perked up and he began running. He must have been running towards the location in which Sakamoto was allegedly hiding.
Yukimura, I am going to report this to the chief. Please stay with the commander as a messenger.
Really? Me? Aww. Yamazaki gave a big gulp. Hijikata had already taken off running. Surely he must have realized that I couldn't possibly run after Hijikata alone. Iba, after watching the events unfold in front of him, offered a solution.
I shall take responsibility and protect her. I will also do my best to stop Toshi. This is all for the best, right?
Yamazaki seemed slightly relieved that such an immediate solution came forth. Poor Suzumu.
Yes, please. We don't have a moment to lose.
I wonder what happened to you.
Motoyama, relay the information you just heard.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Alright, let's go, Chizuru.
Okay. We looked towards one another and nodded. We were running in the direction towards which Hijikata had run off. Alright, let's do this. Whatever's happening. The sun set while we ran. Around us was the darkened streets of Kyoto. Somehow we had found ourselves at Omiya, but the place was filled with an assortment of people. Ryoma Sakamoto's hiding place. It is a soy sauce shop located on the opposite side of the Tosa domain residence. It was so late, yet this place was still busy. I was getting a bad feeling of it all, so I spoke to a passerby to find out what was going on. Did something happen?
Supposedly, there's been a fight here. Sword slashing everywhere. Someone got hurt.
Iba turned around.
Oh, Toshi!
We had found Hijikata a little distance away, and we ran towards him.
What are you doing here? Hachiro is one thing, but you... Whatever, it's fine. It'll be good to have someone who can treat injuries just in case something happens.
Hijikata was muttering to himself.
Toshi, look. I think that person is with the Tosa.
Iba was pointing towards a group of men dressed in samurai attire. They were commanding different civilians to make way as they tried to enter the store.
Stay here, you guys. I'll check inside. Sounds good. Please, be careful.
Hijikata disappeared into the Omiya that was currently flooded with people. We had waited in front of the store for what felt like a long while.
Toshi is taking a while. Hope nothing happened.
Iba looked as though he were growing impatient, and he cautiously gazed at the store. It had been almost 30 minutes since Hijikata had entered the store, but for us it felt like an eternity. Finally, Hijikata had emerged from the store.
Toshi, how did everything go?
Iba approached Hijikata timidly, but the latter looked very distressed. He didn't have to answer. From his silence, we could pick up the pieces for what had happened. Even though he seemed bitterly disappointed, Hijikata began to open up.
It seems like Sakamoto and Nakoaka were attacked. Sakamoto died on the scene, and Hakuoki. He survived, but judging by how he looked, probably not for long.
As Iba had suggested earlier in the evening, if Sakamoto were to be assassinated, then it would cause waves to ripple throughout the country. Darn, I thought we would save him this time. Then it must mean... Hijikata began giving orders while I stood there, having not the faintest idea of what to do.
I'm going to stay here to check the perimeter. I don't want to linger since I'll probably look suspicious, but I can't shake the feeling something's off. Hachiro, sorry to put this on you, but could you take her back to the compounds? Understood. Let's go, Chizuru.
I nodded, and together Iba and I headed back towards the compounds. I'll save you next time. I hope. I should.
Chizuru, are you hungry? Would you like to get something to eat?
No. Now that I was thinking about it, I hadn't eaten anything since the afternoon, but I couldn't bring myself to eat right now. It seemed like Iba picked up on that much, at least. Our conversation stopped, and our footsteps echoed through the dark, empty streetways. Wow, that's beautiful. When we reached the Kamo River, Iba stopped walking. Wow, so beautiful.
I am sure Kyoto will be up in arms now that Ryoma Sakamoto has been assassinated.
The sincerity of his voice, given the current circumstances, made my body tense up. It was a little painful to imagine, but I was sure that he would be right in the near future. Are we going to war? Iba didn't answer immediately. We both watched as the moonlight hid behind the thick clouds above, and he stayed silent. I pressed on. Just like after the Ikeda Inn incident, when the Choshu attacked us. I wasn't too familiar with politics, but I felt the same anxiety now as I did back then. The Choshu became angry as a result of losing their retainer at Ikeda, so they attacked Hamaguri Gate. Or Buri. Oh, that was Hamaguri. Then I knew something similar would happen. The uncertainty of it all made me feel so restless as we shivered in the cold Kyoto evening, but Iba continued to stay silent for a moment.
This situation is a little different.
Huh?
Back then, the Choshu were tasked with protecting the Imperial Palace, so the shogunate was victorious.
Back then? What about now? Iba seemed unsure on how he should answer. But then, he decided to open up, even though his voice told me he didn't believe what he was saying.
Because of the failure of the second Choshu expedition, the shogunate's power is crumbling. They have practically handed the Choshu a reason to attack them tonight. And the Satsuma, who were siding with the shogunate during the Hamaguri Rebellion, will likely back the Choshu and attack Kyoto.
As Iba told me all of this, I became speechless. This happened so quickly. Our lives were changing. Iba sighed as if burdened by the suddenness of these changes, and he bit his lips tenderly.
Kyoto may be at war once more. I don't know how many people will be able to fight by then.
His words struggled to come out, as if encumbered by blood rising through his throat. No. I was surprised to hear Iba tell me all of this, and I began to panic internally. Iba, you're an official guard of the shogunate. Why would you think in such a way? He looked like he was fighting back tears, and he simply shook his head.
It's not what you think. It's because I am with the shogunate that I know all of this. Because the Choshu expedition was a failure, even the Tokugawa family domain is beginning to doubt the power of the shogunate. A Hatamoto, like me, or some of the lower-ranked vassals, aren't prepared for an actual war. So, after all of this, I wonder how many vassals will come to the aid of the shogunate.
I didn't know what I could say to Iba. I knew this was all tough for him to admit, especially because he was a Bakushin. But even then, it must have been something that came from his gut instinct. What could I possibly say? Well, saying Don't worry. Forget about it. Probably not the most comforting thing. The Shinsengumi will always have your back. This I know. You have the Shinsengumi? I said this under the clear light of the radiant moon as it crept from behind the clouds. What?
What?
It seemed as though my comment caught him off guard. Iba's eyes grew wide as he stared at me. I know this because I've been with the Shinsengumi after all of this time. I am positive that they would risk all of their lives to fight this war with you. No matter what happens, I trust them to fight until the bitter end. Silence returned beside the flowing river. He looked at me with a worried expression, then he sighed and closed his eyes for a moment.
Huh. You're right.
Unlike earlier, this time it seemed like he was more at ease by the prospect.
You're right. I'm sure Toshi will fight until the end. I sense great determination from all of them, something that lacks in the Bakushin. Perhaps this is why I find myself visiting them as often as I do. Of course, though, one of the reasons was because I wanted to see you.
Iba laughed momentarily, then quietly turned to face the river again. Hooray, I cheered him up.
The Shinsengumi are likely closer to what it truly means to be a samurai than any of us.
He seemed to glow with a lot of respect as he said this, and I nodded to agree. Eventually, silence returned between us, and the only sound was the flow of the river beside us. Iba stared deeply at the moon, which at this point had inched away from the clouds and shone brightly above us, causing the river to sparkle in kind.
Chizuru, get out of Kyoto as soon as you can.
What did he say? His words shocked me, and I had been told to leave the Shinsengumi out of personal concern before, but this time was different. This time, these words were backed by conviction.
I understand this is a complicated situation for you, as you are very loyal towards the Shinsengumi while you search for Koto. I know it's hard to decide immediately, but I think you should leave as soon as possible.
Through the urgency of Iba's voice, I could sense just how much he cared about me. Of course, he had just said so himself earlier. But because he was so familiar with the internal politics of the shogunate, I knew he truly believed what he said would become of Kyoto. So I should have taken him for his word, but
Look, I understand what may be holding you back, but this time it could cost you your life. If I could do anything in my power to prevent so, I would, but it's a promise I don't know if I can make or not. Or have you already forgotten about the time that I was almost killed by Takeda?
I jumped at the thought. True, what he said may have had some merit. I'm fine, okay? I said so stubbornly, hoping he'd just drop it.
What's fine?
Although he wasn't raising his voice, I could still sense the coldness in his question. Perhaps he was becoming frustrated by my unwillingness to budge. Totally understandable. Was he really irritated that I wouldn't just take his words at face value? If I get hurt, I'll just recover quickly, so I'll be fine. Suddenly I remembered the moment in which Takeda called me a monster. Sure, I may be a little bit different from a normal human, but because of these powers, maybe I could be of some use to the Shinsengumi. Even I, without any battle experience, could do my part if the time ever came.
It's not fine to me at all.
Those were not the words I was expecting to hear from him.
If you're going to be hurt, I'd rather be there in your stead taking the wound. Even if your cuts heal, the thought of you being hurt tortures me. I can't bear to see you in pain. So please, don't tell me it's fine if you get hurt. No matter what anyone says, you're just a normal girl.
Oh. I could sense warmth welling in my chest as he spoke to me with such concern. I'd never expected him to care for me in the way he did. I'm different than a normal girl. Like Takada had said, I guess I couldn't blame someone for thinking I'm a monster. But for Iba to see me for otherwise... Tears began to form as my cheeks flared up. The closeness of our relationship made me blush with emotion, and the intimacy of his kindness drew me in as I watched him smile warmly. I was able to tell him a secret, all those years ago, that I couldn't share with anyone else. Only him. I fought back the tears, and I shined the biggest smile I could to let him know how much it all meant. Thank you, Iba. I felt bad that I couldn't do exactly what he had asked of me, but... if something truly dangerous were to happen to me, I'll do as you say. He gave a small sigh.
Huh. Boy, you sure do love worrying me, don't you? Fine. Then I'm going to protect both you and the Shogunate.
After Iba sighed, he looked up again at the moon hovering above. Shortly after, his tone became a little more cheerful.
Let us head back to compounds now. I am sure the both of us will be quite busy.
And we returned to Fudoto Village. After the assassination of Ryoma Sakamoto, the Shinsengumi were facing an even bigger situation. Let's say that again. Before November ended, the Guardians of the Imperial Tomb, which was Ito's faction, had been undergoing serious internal strife. Saito had joined the Guardians of the Imperial Tomb as the Shinsengumi's spy. And based on the intelligence report, the Shinsengumi had assassinated Ito. Whoa, did we just completely fly by all of that? I'm not, involved with any of that this time around at all? Interesting. The attack on the Guardians eventually became known as the Aberona Koji incident. During this incident, the demons and the Satsuma intervened, and Heisuke had suffered a critical injury during the resulting altercation. In order for Heisuke to survive, he was forced to drink the serum. At the same time, Chikage Kazuma had planned and executed a coordinated attack on the compounds. The serum, brought into the Shinsengumi by my father, was now slowly eating all of them away. My heart began sinking from the weight of all this. Wow, I can't believe we just completely blew by all of that this time around. That's awesome. We skipped a ton of stuff there. And we're not done chapter 4 yet. What's left? Oh, right. Kind of like a recap, and Sanon's gonna try and draw blood, and we can either help Toshi or not. Right, I forgot all about that. I'm so thrown off by, the skipping of the scenes that we did there. Right, so do I help Toshi or not? No, I stay here and have my confab with, oh gosh, not Sanon. Harada. I'm like Sano. Sano Harada and Shinpatu Nagakura. Unless Iba just decides to come by and visit. I mean, he could, I guess. Nope. Harada's just gonna try and make another play. That's fine, you can do that. I will allow it. You were a good husband, though, too. After this, we should be getting into chapter 5, though. What picture are we gonna get? Is my boy gonna be covered in blood? Okay. Yeah, I thought we were going into chapter 5. Oh. Reunited and it feels so good. That's the achievement I just got. Alright. I mean, I guess I can check the warrior record, but we were at full bloom before, so... and I don't know what to make of that final picture. Okay, still in full bloom. Was he about to, like, vampire bite her? Or was he shaking some sense into her? I just don't know. It was the winter of 1867. The end of the year was approaching us. Iba had warned me not too long ago that I should leave Kyoto, but I had no time to make a decision. Kyoto's political climate had grown increasingly tense everywhere I looked. The threat of war loomed ominously as the shogunate and Satsuma Choshu prepared their armies. As a precaution, the Shinsengumi was ordered to guard the Fushimi magistrate, which was being fortified as a shogunate safeguarding Kyoto. Kondo joined an envoy en route to Fushimi Castle as part of a delegation to discuss key strategies when an attempt on his life critically wounded him. How much of a summary are we gonna get? The assailant was a gunman, so we needed to perform urgent care on him immediately, and the captains waited anxiously for our updates.
Yamazaki! Any word on Kondo?
His condition has stabilized a little, and he's asleep right now, but the wounds are more serious than we thought. However, we were able to extract the bullet. At the moment, this is all we can do for him. Our resources are limited here.
Hijikata watched quietly, seemingly deep in thought as he was listening to Yamazaki's report. Eventually,
if it's a real doctor we need, Dr. Matsumoto is currently residing at Osaka Castle. There's no telling when war will break out, so we should get him there while we still can.
Hijikata hung his head low with a bitter expression, and Shimada bowed his head apologetically.
I apologize. I should have done everything to protect the chief, even if it meant giving my own life. What are you talking about? The only reason why Kondo's not dead was because you busted your ass out there. However, no point in dwelling on what could have been. All that matters now is for us to take action so his injuries don't worsen. I bet he won't like this, but we're gonna have to move Kondo over to Osaka Castle so he can recover in peace. While we're at it, send the sick one too.
Aw, my poor boy, Soji. Hijikata's order made me gasp. Had he been talking about the sick one?
What? Who are you referring to? You don't mean...
Harada was sharp, so I'm sure that he had been thinking about the same person as I was.
I'm talking about Soji. He has tuberculosis. What?
After seeing Okita get worse and worse over the past few months, I had a feeling that was the case. So, Okita officially had tuberculosis. To my knowledge, the disease was incurable. Once you've contracted it, all you could do was rest, hoping that you could do whatever it took to stay the disease's progression until... ...
Let's figure out how we're gonna get both Kondo and Okita to Osaka Castle immediately.
Hijikata, who was probably more worried than anyone here, seemed focused on the future, trying to find solutions even as things seemed grim. Given the circumstances, there was no way I could insert any of my own worries into the situation. On the contrary, it motivated me to do whatever I could to help them during this rough period. The sick one. After a few days had passed, I was preparing the arrangements for Kondo and Okita's departure to Osaka Castle when...
Yukimura, a moment of your time. You have a visitor.
Oh, sure. Please, give me a moment. A visitor for me? I quickly wrapped up their clothing into bags, and Shimada led me to the common room where I saw...
Hello, Chizuru. How are you?
Iba! What are you doing here?
I was assigned to guard Kondo on his trip to Osaka Castle from the shogunate. At the moment, we are no longer Okazume, but rather we have been reformed as the Yugeki unit. A pleasure to make your acquaintance.
A unit made up of men from the shogunate's martial arts dojo and his vassals. Okay. Yugeki unit.
Yep, and since it's almost New Year's, I would love to catch up with you, but now doesn't seem like the best time. Huh.
He sighed lightly, and then Iba turned to face Hijikata.
So, how has Kondo been holding up?
He's regained consciousness, but his fever's still hot. Soji's in no shape to swing a sword, either.
I see.
Iba bowed his head, closing his eyes for a brief moment. He too had shared a long history with Kondo, so I'm sure he was worried about the possible outcome of Kondo's condition. However, he snapped back up, as if preventing himself from ruminating on what could possibly be.
Alright. I will assume full responsibility to ensure the two of them are escorted safely to Osaka Castle.
Hijikata shook his head slowly.
No, not two. There's gonna be 3 of them.
I'm like, are you sending me with as well?
3?
I wondered who the third person could be. It couldn't have been any of the captains, since all of them were needed at the magistrate.
Why do you have that confused look on your face? You're headed to Osaka Castle too.
What? Me? I had absolutely no idea that I'd be going to Osaka, so naturally I was dumbfounded. What?
I see. So, because of her medical background, you want her to treat Kondo and Okita, is that it?
Exactly. Since it looks like the Satsuma's going for it, Kyoto will be a war zone soon. This war will be huge.
I don't want her to get sucked into all the bullshit going on.
Hijikata's intentions were good, and what he'd said made sense, but I couldn't bring myself to nod in agreement. It looked as though Iba understood him, nodding in agreement to Hijikata's proposition. But then he looked over to me, as if he was hoping for me to say how I'd felt about the idea. How should I respond? Look, we promised. I think we should go. We can't do any good here. Come on, let's go. Even if it's like, well, I guess if Toshi wants me to go. Honestly, I had no desire to leave from the Shinsengumi with all that was going on, but if those are the commander's orders, I accept. As I gritted my teeth subtly, I was internally screaming from accepting an order I didn't want. Toshi's happy. My heart sank like a heavy stone in my chest as the reality of leaving began to settle. When Hijikata heard my answer, he closed his eyes, perhaps a little relieved, but then...
Is that what you truly think?
As usual, Iba seemed to see right through my intentions, and his question got right to it.
Hey, Hachiro, don't confuse her. I am not, but this is important.
Iba had already impressed upon me the importance of escaping Kyoto as soon as I could. Considering his own duties, there was really no need for him to look after what I wanted. But even then, Iba had been watching out for me. The manner in which he'd acknowledged the position I was in and put what I wanted into consideration gave me the confidence to speak my mind. If I told either of you that I wasn't concerned about Kondo or Okita, I'd be lying. I think that having someone by their sides to treat and care for them is important. However, if war were to break out soon, as you suggest, then what will become of the others here? When I think about all of the men who may suffer serious injuries here, it pains me to think that I'd be abandoning them all to leave for Osaka. After I spoke my mind, Iba's eyes twinkled kindly and he turned to Hijikata. Oh! Well, he appreciated that we tried to go.
The lady has spoken, Toshi. She's got a good point. There are many other experienced doctors to care for Kondo and Okita. And this may sound rude, but just because she's with them doesn't guarantee that their conditions will improve to the extent you want them to. More than anything, though, if I take her with me, she'll probably resent me.
Hijikata curled his lip bitterly and he let out a troubled sigh.
Oh, damn it. You let her get to you too, huh?
I get to you, Toshi, really?
Fine. Guess I just can't win with Edo women.
Oh, Toshi, you're making them plays from my heart.
You may be right there. You know, Toshi, other than the women of Hino, I never thought I'd meet a woman who could break you down.
Oh? Kondo and Hijikata's hometown.
Hey, shut it.
Hijikata thinned his eyes at Iba, and Iba simply laughed it off. However, Hijikata's tone shifted back to a serious one.
Well, even if those hot-headed Satsuma are gearing up for war, the Shogunate's not looking for one. As long as we don't fall for their bait, I don't think the war is going to happen. But even if fighting breaks out, the Satsuma only have so many men. I have faith we'll be fine.
Hijikata expressed confidence in the Shogunate's odds, but...
Right.
Iba's answer vexed me. Usually, Iba trusted whatever Hijikata said and responded with a smile. But this time, not even Iba's handsomeness could hide the lines of worry in his face, and he tried to play it off.
In all seriousness, Toshi, please take good care of her. Chizuru, make sure you follow any order Toshi or anyone else from the Shinsengumi gives you.
Of course.
Alright. Well, let's prepare Kondo and Okita for Osaka now. Can you lead me to them?
Oh! Yes, of course. Please, come this way. I led Iba to where Kondo and Okita had been resting. Soji doesn't look impressed.
Okita, how are you feeling? Can you walk?
What do you think? Man, such a prick.
Right, you can't. Here, let me give you my shoulder. Put your arm around my neck.
Now, some pussy who can't even swing a sword is carrying me. Jeez, what a low I've sunk to. Okita struggled to breathe, continuing to cough painfully, and he was taken outside. Soji! Then Kondo too was moved from the building.
I cannot say I have experienced many regrets, but I guess there is a first for everything. When Lord Taiju needs me more than ever, I am injured and unable to help. Don't worry, just take it easy. I'll make sure everyone's safe while you're gone.
Hijikata assured Kondo confidently, then Kondo seemed to relax a little from his words.
I will leave the rest to you, Toshi.
Hijikata nodded his head deeply. After we watched the Yugeki unit carry the two of them out, Iba turned to face me one last time to ask me a question.
You're sure you want to stay?
Without any hesitation, I nodded my head. Yes, this is the path I chose. Iba's eyes sparkled, and he seemed like there was something he wanted to say, but instead he thinned his eyes. As a cool breeze blew against a background of sunset, Iba closed his eyes slowly. We paused for a moment, basking in the silence. Then he spoke softly, practically to himself.
If I had my wish, I would have you with me, even if it meant by force. But if I did so, I know you'd regret it forever.
All I could do was stare at the ground. I knew that my decision had hurt someone very close to me. I wasn't so oblivious that I couldn't see how what I wanted was against what he wanted.
Toshi said this earlier, but the Satsuma Choshu will do whatever they can to bring down the Takagawa clan. I have no delusions that it will become war.
Iba had warned me of this back during the Omiya incident. What do you think the chances of victory are?
That is uncertain. Based on numbers, the Shogunate army should. But the outcome of war cannot be predicted by numbers alone.
Iba expressed an anxiety of his in the past. that the Hatamoto and shogunate vassals were in no way prepared for a serious conflict, and the shogunate had experienced such defeat during the second Choshu expedition. Iba suddenly grabbed a hold of my hand, and he drew me closer to him almost forcefully.
Promise me. Promise me you won't die. If you ever believe yourself to be in danger, run. Do whatever it takes to survive. I shouldn't have listened to you. I should have taken you with me to Osaka Castle today. Promise that I'm making the right choice in letting you stay here, that I don't have to worry about you.
Oh. His hands quivered as they clasped mine. As children, we'd held hands numerous times. When he would read to me, I remember thinking about how soft and delicate his hands were. And now, even as we're grown up, his hands were still giving me great warmth and comfort. I must do whatever it takes not to break his heart. As we neared our goodbyes, my heart felt heavy with the anticipation of missing him. I promise you that I'll never do anything to hurt you, Iba. As I gave him my promise, he shared with me the same familiar smile I had grown to admire.
Okay. Remember, you promised.
Then, almost painfully, he released my hands, and so he left with Kondo and Okita. As I watched him leave, I spoke to him internally. Thank you so much, Iba. I vow to keep my promise no matter what. So please, be safe as well. As the winds carried the dead leaves around my feet, I stood there, watching Iba leave until the small of his back disappeared into the horizon.